Welcome back to Hancock and Kelley here on your Sunday morning. Before we get to the local races here, as I always say, the groups I trust the most when it comes to polling are the gamblers and the people who have a lot of money to lose on this stuff, right? And I just got this headline from CNBC, and they say 75% of top executives now say that Biden is going to win the election. The Republicans are going to keep the Senate, and Democrats will take the House. I mean, these guys are the ones who have to make hiring decisions, Michael. They have to decide, what their business is going to. Those are the kind of guys I trust. What about you?
Well, I think a lot in 2016, you could have seen similar assessments from those folks, and the world was unturned by Donald Trump. Democrats better not fall into the same trap they did in 2016. And let me predict, Hillary Clinton got 3 million more votes than Donald Trump. I anticipate that Joe Biden could get 5 to 10 million more, but that's not what it's all about. It's a state-by-state race.
Yeah, but the Senate and the House, John, what are you thinking on those?
Well, I mean, the House is going to stay Democratic, clearly. Those executives, it's basically conventional wisdom at this point that Biden's going to win. I think the Senate's a toss-up. It's really going to come down to a handful of races: North Carolina, Montana, Iowa, Maine, and we'll see how that all goes. I think Republicans are probably done in Arizona and Colorado, and Democrats are done in Alabama. So the Democrats, they're going to need to pick up 2 of those other seats in order to take a majority. And I think it's a very close call at this point.
Well, it's funny. People always say, well, why do you trust those guys? I say, well, any of us can make a prediction. I say, do you want to bet your 401k on it? Most would say no. Well, these guys are betting a lot of people's 401ks. So, all right, one of the most high-profile congressional races starting to get heated up. It is the Missouri 2nd congressional seat, currently held by Republican Ann Wagner. Democrat Jill Shoup is the contender, both now running ads. The district being watched closely because it's the suburbs, which all the political consultants are watching this year. The Cook Political Report calls this one a toss-up. All right, John. Ann Wagner won this one last time by a margin 51-47 over Court Van Ostren back in 2018. It wasn't really a comfortable victory 2 years ago. So what are you seeing here?
Well, the difference between Van Ostren and Jill Shoup is that Jill Shoup's got a lengthy record. She's liberal. And I mean, she's not just a little liberal. She's out there. And I don't see the 2nd district electing someone that far out of the mainstream. That said, the suburban districts in this election are going to be critical, and they're going to be tight. And I think this is going to be a close race. And I think, Donald Trump right now is probably a point or 2 down or a point or 2 ahead in that district. I think Ann Wagner can overcome that. If Trump's numbers get too far down, it's going to make it increasingly difficult. I don't think the Democrats did the best job of recruiting a mainstream candidate, though. And I think at the end of the day, that's going to bite them.
Michael.
That's nonsense. Jill Shoup's a good qualified candidate to run for that office. She will be the next congressman. This is one of those seats where Donald Trump is going to play a role, and Donald Trump's unpopular in the 2nd congressional district. Ann Wagner, with barely any money spent against her in the last election, barely squeaked it out. She's a person, Ann Wagner, who's tied herself at times to Donald Trump, then tried to separate him. She's more conflicted on Donald Trump than Donald Trump is. So she's going to live and die with Donald Trump, and in that district, I think it's going to be a fool's errand for her.
All right, the other race where we are suddenly seeing an influx of ads is, of course, the race for Missouri governor. This one playing out just like we thought it would, at least when it comes to the ads being run. Galloway is painting Parson as ineffective on fighting COVID. The ads being run against Galloway claim she's being funded by far-left groups who wanted to fund police and are the reason the violence is escalating all across the country. Okay, let me say this, by the way. I've interviewed both of these two numerous times at this point. In person, really 2 of the nicest people, but as far opposite when it comes to policies. I find that very interesting because a lot of people don't get to know the politicians, maybe like you guys do or I do. They're both really good people. That's what I find interesting about this race is they're both really nice people, but just very opposite. So this race is going to be, which side do you get on? Is it the very conservative or the very liberal here?
Well, I'm not sure that it's very conservative or very liberal. Both of them have their own positions. Mike Carson's going to have to be held accountable for what's happened as it relates to COVID here in Missouri. And Nicole Galloway does have a record that she's going to run on. But this race shouldn't even be close. Mike Carson, this is a Republican state that is going to be a very tight race. And it's all because of COVID. And I think Mike Parson's hearing the footsteps of Nicole Galloway, and he ought to be extremely nervous.
John.
Well, it's a center-right state. We won everything in 2016, but remember, Donald Trump carried the state by 19 points. Had that not happened, we could have lost the U.S. Senate race here. We could have lost the governor's race here. Those were both very close elections. So I don't think it's as accurate to say Missouri is a Republican state, but it is a right-of-center state. Missouri today has the 9th lowest unemployment rate of any state in America. Now, if I were governor in the midst of a pandemic, I would be touting that because this state really has weathered this pandemic reasonably, comparatively well. And I think if Galloway uses that as the sole focus of her message, I think she's going to err because I think Mike Parson has got a good story to tell when it comes to how Missouri has reacted both to the coronavirus and to our economy.
As we get closer to the election, I know Democrats are going to run ads primarily targeting COVID. Republicans are going to run ads primarily targeting law and order. Michael, is that really what the election's coming down to? Is Republicans are going to try and say, well, all hell's going to break loose if you elect the other guys, and Democrats are going to say, well, we're all going to get sick if you elect the other guys. Is that really what it's come down to?
Well, I think it's the narrative the media is going to push because it's the two biggest issues facing our country, and it's not specific to St. Louis, Kansas City, it's throughout the state. So, yeah, absolutely. I think those are going to be two major issues, and there are two very different opinions on the way that we solve things. One, continue the same path of mediocrity, status quo, or the other, make substantial change and try to have a fighting chance against this virus.
Yeah, I think you make a really good point there, Brown and Michael. The coronavirus has been the number one issue in this country for 6 months straight. My sense is that it's beginning to wane as the most important issue for more and more people. Now, 4 weeks from now, who knows? But if this violence continues across the country, and we're seeing it on our television screens every night, and if the crime issue begins to elevate and the COVID issue begins to dissipate, that is good news, particularly for Donald Trump, but it's also good news generally for Republicans in Missouri and across the country. And that will be a key factor to keep an eye on as we navigate these last 7 or 8 weeks before the election.
All right, still to come here on Hancock and Kelley. We're going to do a little rapid fire with some of the more absurd headlines from the week. How did Kentucky Fried Chicken make it into our rapid fire segment this week? Heck, I don't know, but chicken and Krispy Kreme donuts to start your Sunday morning sounds like a plan to me anyway. Stick around to find out why they're in the news today.